Okay, so we are live. Let me just close the freaking doors. My dog decided that she wants to enter the room. So let me set things up. Hopefully everything goes fine. Hopefully everything goes well. We'll see. It's a learning process for all of us. Okay. Looks like it's live on LinkedIn. Sorry, on the YouTube. No. Why are you not through the internet? Wrong. Yes. Okay. That's better. I'm wondering if there is a kind of like start the broadcast but then pause it. Or maybe it isn't. Stop the cam. Invite the guests. Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, nice. Now it's in
Perfect.
lead. Awesome. So the first step is done. The link is working. That's a good thing already. Yes, I have learned a lesson because it's the first time I'm using StreamYard. So I entered the StreamYard and I was like, I'm 10 minutes earlier. Maybe I just end the broadcast. I thought maybe I can just start it again. You can't. Once you press end the broadcast, the link, everything just goes off.
Oh, no.
In case you're in the future doing any live streams through StreamYard, obviously I need to Google and see if there's ways of pausing it. But yeah, I pressed the end. It was like, boom, the broadcast finished. Can't come back. That's nice. So that's done. It seems like it is already live on, yes, it is on YouTube. So that's good.
So alrighty. Exciting.
Me too. I just need to do the most important part, which is press the record. Now, I'm going to start with a challenge. Can you stay quiet for 5 seconds? All right, 5 seconds gone. Now, the reason why I do that is because for the editing reasons, you need like a sample to clear the noise. And needs to be a few seconds of silence, apparently. Wow, already excited. It's my first time doing live streams. We'll see. I've just been granted as well LinkedIn Live, which will be explored as well. Let's just get into it. A few things. Hold on, things just pressing in. Okay, so just a few things, Claudia, before we start. Just be yourself. If you feel like your style is to swear, go ahead. I'll tag along. I press that button. There's like a button on YouTube when you have to press, is it for kids or not? Press it's not for kids. So if you feel like swearing, do it. Absolutely fine. I'm really excited to get it started. So guys, I'm Raf, the host of Coaching Leaders Podcast. And in today's episode, I'm going to discuss a topic that a few years ago would be strange to me because the culture that I was growing in, the topic of being happy in the workplace wasn't really existing. I was raised in being professional, and I think a lot of us are in a very similar position. Today's are different times, and I believe we all want to be part of a happy and engaging environment. Turns out, Claudia is the very first happiness coach that I came across, and I thought, I need to have that conversation because we all need to learn how to create and develop this happy and engaging environments. It's kind of expected from us, right, Claudia, that we do that as a managers, but very little support. At least it's my experience from my management career. How did you ended up? I'm really curious. How did you ended up in coaching managers how to create happy and engaging environments?
Well, you're right. Happiness for many people, it's connected with this fluffy concept, fun, something good to have, rather than actually a very solid metric that can predict the productivity, innovation, and the growth of the business. So my background is I'm a work psychologist, and I always loved data, and I loved bringing science into the workplace. And I also work as a learning and development specialist. So I would be responsible for inputting different programs for people to learn and advance within the workplace. And at some point, really, it became very clear for me that to embed a successful learning culture, we do need to start with people well-being and happiness. Because you can have the most amazing tools there, the most amazing L&D programs, but if your employees are not satisfied in the workplace, you will struggle to utilize them. Hence my kind of focus on happiness. And also I'm a co-host of a podcast called And Happiness, which is all about looking into science of happiness in the workplace, in personal life. So I'm kind of fusing the two approaches together.
You know what? First of all, I need to say thank you for introducing yourself. I was so excited about this topic and curious to learn. I skipped the part to introducing you, who you really are and what you're doing. So thank you very much for doing so. Now, you've mentioned something that to me sounds contradictory in the first place. We're talking about metrics, we're talking about science, I'm talking about happiness and laughter. Could you break it down a little bit further? How those two really merge? Because it might be confusing for some of our listeners right now. How do we merge science and metrics and numbers and figures possibly into something that is very much a feeling, happiness?
Okay, sure. So first of all, happiness, it's a very general concept that really covers various emotions, from being very curious to being joyful when it comes to connecting with other people. So it's a quite broad concept. Now, researchers specifically look of what does it specifically mean to be happy in the workplace, and they identified various drivers, and we'll come back to that when it comes to kind of practical implications. And then they started to actually using it as a link, as a metric, as I said, to predict performance of employees. So there is just absolutely masses of extensive research done, which shows that if you are in positive emotions when you are working, you are precisely 28% more productive than the people who are in neutral or negative mood. Okay, you are much better equipped to deal with adversity. Therefore, the stress levels in the organization will go by 55%. You are 3 times more likely to be coming up with ideas and be innovative. You are 2 times more likely to stay in the business, 40% more likely to have a promotion, and the business growth, when it comes to business growth, happiness measures predict 3% higher share price.
Wow, incredible.
Absolutely. So you can put numbers on happiness. It's not a fluffy concept. It can be break down in a very specific measurable elements, and they predict employee behavior and those benefits to the business.
So my next question to that would be why we are so insisting into the concept and the ethos of being professional. And like I've mentioned, that's how I was raised. I'm Polish, and I'm guessing it's almost all over the world. I believe that we are being told to act professionally, to be professional. Now, I spoke a lot with my previous guests about being human in the workplace, not specifically about happiness itself. So while we are so so much into being professional when what you just mentioned shows very clearly that we have to take tangible steps into making sure that our working environment is a happy environment.
Well, I think we got it. I think it's just conventional wisdom of having it a little bit backwards. I mean, all our life we've been told that we are, when we'll be successful, when you reach certain grades, then when you get certain job, when you get certain salary level, then you'll be happy. But, and that's the conventional wisdom that we've been told for so many years, I think, from the moment we're small. But actually, you're right. The research tells us completely opposite. It's if we're happy, we have higher chances of being more successful. And that's, for me, absolutely fascinating. And another aspect to add to your question is that we all suffer from happiness paradox, okay? And that phenomenon again, has been researched so in depth by various researchers from neuroscience to management studies. And the idea is that, look, at the end of the day, we want to be happy. That's Absolutely. What we want. And we go through life and we go from opportunity to opportunity because we want to sustain that happiness. We want things that bring us that happiness. But actually, what we forget to do is concentrate on the happiness in the first place. Okay, so we forget to concentrate on, for instance, habits and practices and routines that can bring us happiness. We forget to actually reflect and coach our team members of what is it that makes us happy.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So so the idea of happiness paradox is that we're chasing after all those means that's supposed to bring us happiness, but what we need to start doing is looking at our happiness first and foremost.
So let's start the journey. Let's say I'm back into the management. I'm newly promoted manager, and I got all these great ideas and vision for myself. And of course, I have to start with setting my own mood and happiness. So you've mentioned it. We have to look at our own happiness and creating those habits. So let's just pretend for the next 20 minutes or so, half an hour, that you're coaching me and I'm entering this world of management. How do I set up the environment around myself, and what habits I have to create in order to step into that happy mood almost every single day?
I think for us, in terms of managing our mental health, so obviously we all have mental health and it goes up and down. It's developing, as I said, very specific habits that help us to sustain positive mental health, okay? So that's because 45% roughly of our actions daily is habitual. So we don't even consciously think about it. So that's for me personally, that's a very scary high number of kind of things happening unconsciously in my brain. So there are certain very, very positive habits that we can develop, such as meditation, such as mindfulness, gratitude journal, which help us to rewire our brain to concentrate on positive in the environment. So let's take gratitude. That is a very powerful emotion that has actually power to change our brain on a structural level. So we are quicker at spotting positive and happy moments in our life than the negative ones. So I think those, and again, we all would need different things. Like some people would say, look, meditation is not for me. That's fine. That's absolutely great. It's just one of the examples of what we could do. What's most important is reflecting, of thinking, okay, how I can help myself to be happy and bring that happy mindset to the workplace. And having that first kind of reflection point and moment.
It is very much being deliberate about it, because you've mentioned quite rightly, meditation is not for everyone. I tried it for a while and I realized it's not something that I really enjoy. But to be honest with you, it's not something that I feel like I need, because I've done something different. And that means I'm wiring my brain every single day to focus on the positive side. And that doesn't mean I just wear a pink rose-pink glasses all the time. It means that I'm wiring myself to balance this negativity bias that we all have, right? You've mentioned, you have to train yourself to look for the positive one. Why? Because
Absolutely.
negativity bias says we are more likely to spot the negative aspects of our life and experiences and pay more attention to it, because from survival perspective, it's something that's, we are risking our own health and life. And so what I do on a daily basis, what works for me, is focus constantly how I communicate with myself that is focused on spotting, recognizing, and viewing a perspective from the things from the positive perspective. That was for me. Meditation is not, like you mentioned, it's just one of the tools that we can all apply and put in place, because it works differently for different people. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I agree. And for instance, my co-host of And Happiness podcast, she is very much into exercise. I'm not very sporty. That doesn't necessarily set my brain into that level, because for me, any exercise is very much about pain. So, because I'm not very fit. So it's but that's what brings her that kind of mindfulness level.
Yeah.
She would say meditation doesn't work for her, but the exercise absolutely is what helps her with that. So there is lots of techniques, from journaling to, as we already mentioned, exercising, that you can do. But it's finding out something that works for you, to help you to put the brain in that state. Now, once you come to your workplace and there is all these things happening and you have huge workload, massive deadlines, people on your doorstep constantly asking you different questions, phone call after the phone call, how do you manage happiness? It seems to be on the bottom of your list.
Yeah.
But I think there are three specific elements. Okay, so again, this comes from work by Daniel Pink, Drive. Three specific. Yes, one of my favorites as well. Three specific elements that you can look every day at as a manager to ensure that happy workplace. So one, it's about autonomy. Two, it's mastery, and three is purpose. So in terms of autonomy, is giving freedom to your employees to choose direction of their work. And I think nowadays, in the current challenging times we are in, that's even more important, because that means that people concentrate on something that is relevant, even though everything else around us is changing. And also, and again, your entire show is about that, is not managing people, is coaching them, so that the decision making can move to the front line. And that's what you want really as a successful manager. At least I believe that, because you're supposed to be there to be asking the right decisions, asking the right questions, but for them to go in and explain the right decision. And autonomy, freedom in the workplace, is one of the elements that boost people performance and job satisfaction. So if you learn to give your teams more autonomy, that will raise their level of happiness. Wow. The second one, so mastery, is playing to people's strengths. So we need to delegate as managers all the time. It's about understanding people's skill sets very well. And if you're not sure about that, there is so many free different tools that you can introduce in your team to look at their skill sets and their strength level. And it is then creating opportunities for them to be applying those strengths. And again, that's because we are 18 times more engaged and effective when we use our strengths. Okay, so think about how you delegate things, why you're delegating certain tasks to certain people, how you can be creating opportunities for them to challenge people so they're learning, right? Because we need to be stimulating people all the time so they engage in what they do, but also you are playing to their strengths, and value their strengths, recognize them. Each conversation and a meeting you have with your direct reports, leave them feeling good about themselves. Again, because if we are in a positive mood, remember, we are 28% more productive. So spread that positive mood. And the final one is the purpose. And this is a big skill, I believe, to learn by managers. This is all about how do you link even the most mundane operational tasks that people doing daily, to the overall purpose of the organization, because people need to understand the bigger why. To really feel happy and engaged. And again, there is an entire concept called job crafting, introduced by Dr. Amy Wrześniewski, which is all about how you can be reminding your team every day what are they doing and how is that in line with the bigger purpose. So those are, I think, very three specific things that we can do as managers, that almost like adopting a happy management style, if you like, by incorporating those three elements. So it doesn't feel that, okay, I need to now force happiness on my team. It shouldn't be like this. It's more about, this is the way I lead, and I incorporate certain drivers, which means that the happiness will, in the background, will start going up. That's what we want.
So there is a pattern emerging here, and I think it goes against to what the first impression is when we talk about happiness in the workplace, that it's not joking around. Well, yes, it's a part, humor is absolutely part of it. We haven't discussed that at all yet. It taps into something completely different, a lot more related to what we believe our job is as a manager and our job is as a leader, and being even professional, meaning delivering results for our company, for our brand, for our people, which links it all together. And what I hear from you is that it's all linked to how we lead and manage people, rather than just only focusing or creating an environment where there is, jokes around and there is lots of laughter and banter. I'm guessing that's also part of that, but it goes against that sort of first impression, like, well, I'm not the most, so for instance, myself, I'm not the most extroverted person. I'm a bit more introverted, if I'm honest with you, in a social environment. But what you're telling me right now, it plays to my strength because I love coaching people. And so all of a sudden, what you're telling me is I can actually create a happy and engaging environment, not necessarily by being extroverted, but actually tapping into people's strength, giving them the purpose, the autonomy. Those three things are really important. The mastery, which is, again, all about coaching leadership. And then we have this engaging and happy environment, right?
Absolutely. So, it's happiness. It's not only about having fun and having a banter. That's only one side of happiness. That is more happiness that we need for social connection. Okay.
Sure.
And we want to belong. So we engage in that. That's also very important. As you said, that creates positive environment in the workplace, and it allows people to bond and have this sense of belonging. But there is also happiness. It's also about other positive emotions, such as I already mentioned, being curious about something and going and exploring it, being content of how do we currently working, having finding positive events and concentrating on them, being grateful, being kind to my colleagues. So it's not all about maybe joking around and therefore wasting time. It's not about that at all.
You've mentioned several times curiosity already, and I want to explore that a little bit further, because I believe curiosity is hugely important. We all were curious as a kids, like incredibly curious, and we slowly losing it as we move into the adulthood. How do we reignite that curiosity in the workplace, in your opinion? And what can we do? What can managers do to foster more curiosity in a work environment?
I think, again, this starts with truly embedding a learning culture and on that operational level. So in my practice, obviously, people say, well, another training program, I don't want to do this, I don't want to learn this. It's not about building another program for people to learn something or to then be potentially curious about something. It's about giving people, and as a manager, creating this environment in which people are happy to ask questions and their questions are taken seriously. Having certain processes in which people can innovate. Now, what's the problem with curiosity innovation? The dark side of it is that people try something, they fail, they make a mistake, and they will get told off. So again, how are you managing those moments when the mistakes have been made in the team? Is it a blame you made mistake, never, ever, ever try something new again. Because if yes, that's killing people curiosity to try new things and see what happens. It's about fostering environment in which people know that if they try something new, even if it doesn't go their way, if they take responsibility for that, you'll be there to support them and to help them to fix it and learn from it. And I think also being a role model.
Absolutely.
Through the learning culture, like, are you sending some stimulating, interesting information to your team? Are you having those different conversations? Are you having curiosity sessions for half an hour in your lunch breaks when you can discuss quite new, interesting topics? This is how this is how it starts. It always starts with us. And I think to foster curiosity is to give people nudges to be curious. Yep. And then also allowing for it to happen, even maybe at times people introduce idea which doesn't work at all.
Yeah, I get it. So I'm guessing one of the ways in which managers can do that, especially the most senior one, they seem like they have the idea for the business and they just go straight into execution. Hey, I have this idea, let's just do it. Maybe the way to do so, and something that I've learned from my mentor Kieran, is that even though you have the idea, you know what you want to do and you know how it works and what won't work, you're not necessarily communicating it. You just ask a conversation, ask for opinion and see where people will take it and guide that conversation rather than just saying, I have this idea, I have these opinions, we're going to go and execute. You just reverse it and you stimulate these curious conversations and asking for opinions. Hey, I'm going to look into improve X and Y, what we should do. Or in hospitality, I spend my life in hospitality, could be, hey, you know what? I think the bar layout doesn't work. How can we make it better? Even though I have vision in my mind already, how can we make it better? You tell me, not myself. And then we'll just execute it your way. I'm guessing that's one of the ways in which we can start fostering that curiosity in the workplace, right?
Absolutely. Asking the questions and don't acting, I think, I struggled for some time, I must admit, that as a managers, we feel, okay, I'm a manager. I have to have all the answers. And if someone is there asking me, I need to straight away solve all the problems. And I think, and no, that's not, I believe that's not the manager role. We as a managers are there to support people and to and ask the right questions so they can go and do it. And actually, probably they will do it better than us because we're paying them for certain expertise and skills. We brought them to the business because of the value they provide. So let's capitalize on that value rather than me putting my kind of expertise on the top. So I think definitely asking the right questions it starts always with that, being that coaching, having that kind of coaching mindset. But I think sometimes it is hard, especially I feel when we have someone coming and wanting our support, and they very much in that ranting stage and a kind of problem stage, and this doesn't work, and this person done this, and there's lots of blame and lots of emotions. And I think in situations like that, it's very important to, there are two ways we can deal with that. We need to move them definitely from that ranting mindset, because they clearly in a kind of the victim mindset, and they, something happened, they're very upset about that. How we can move them away from that, so we help them to accept of what has just happened and potentially then move on. Or we can move them into a mindset that they can fix it and they can impact that situation. And we can start having the conversation about the solutions. But it's just I know it's so tricky when we have someone going through their emotional kind of breakdown sometimes, but how we can help them to reach that more thriving mindset, if you like.
Yeah. So the idea, I mean, you've mentioned earlier on about the autonomy, and so having those conversations and allowing your employees to execute and come up with it is just taps right into that sort of autonomy category, if you will. There's one thing that I've learned from my own process and experience as a manager. It's something that I'm guessing it's obsession of mine. I like to look into really depth and details how I communicate, because I think it all makes an impact. I've learned as an athlete that how I communicate with myself, the small words and changes make a huge impact. And at some point I've realized that we have this habit in the workplace of replying to the things with I know. So if an employee brings the issue that you're already aware of, you just, I know. Yes, I know about it. I thought about it. And then you've mentioned earlier on about killing that curiosity and then stopping people from coming in. If we have developed this habit of replying to everything that I know, then eventually people would start assuming, well, I'm not going to mention anything to Raf because he knows already anyway, which only escalates the perception of exactly what you've mentioned, is that people think that managers have all those answers, and managers then believe they should have all those answers. We shouldn't. And so my advice to all of you employees and managers, no, managers shouldn't have all the answers. They don't have all the answers, and we shouldn't act. And I will second your opinion, Claudia. We shouldn't act like we have all those answers, because we don't. Small tip for you guys is to pay attention if you are replying with "I know," because that will kill slowly that curiosity, and people will just stop coming with it. Because what essentially is happening, in my opinion, is that if I bring the idea and you say, hey, I know about it, is that I'm diminishing your social status now, because I'm thinking of you lesser. I'm above you. I'm the boss here. I know already. Why are you bringing it to me? That sort of relationship here. And we don't want to be in that position. So what's the safest way to avoid it? I'll just shut up. I won't say anything. Right?
Yeah. And you're right, this I know aspect also will not encourage the mastery. We want to play to people's strengths, and people's strengths won't shine if we will be in a position, oh, I know it, and I know better than you because I'm in a managerial position and you're not. As I said, we're bringing employees because of the skill sets, they value they bring to the business. So that's the strengths we want to really capture in and capitalize on.
Sure. So I'm going to just flip the coin a little bit here, because from the interview that I have with you already, and I had like one conversation beforehand as well, there's something that I keep on hearing from you. And this is I'm just saying as I feel like as a potential your manager, and you've mentioned playing to your strength. Numbers are important to you. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
You see?
Because I think if we don't have numbers in a business environment, we won't be taken seriously. So, and I've learned that many times in the beginning of my career as an L&D practitioner, I had that in a very kind of, hard way, when I would go as a very junior, excited L&D manager to do something. And, the question would be, how much does it cost and what value does it bring? And yes, you know the cost, but you don't know what value does it bring. It just won't get live. It won't get executed within the business. So I think if we don't have business, if you don't have numbers, we're not taken seriously. So definitely, and especially when it comes to happiness, if you go and say, hey, look, you need to now invest in your employees' happiness, people will be like, yeah, great. We have a crisis here going on. What are you talking about? This is not on the agenda. If you bring numbers about product, as I already mentioned, around productivity, innovation, share value, etc., then people start listening. Plus, you cannot argue with numbers, right?
Sure. So let's just carry on the role play, if you will. So I can hear how numbers are important to you. Now, to all my listeners, I understand numbers, and as a manager, I share your opinion, but I don't like numbers, if I'm honest with you, Claudia. And now, imagine we are both in one environment together, and we have a manager. What you want to do is to engage both of us in different way. The way I would engage Claudia personally, if I was her manager, would be very much through those numbers. So if I would create a challenge for her, or if I present a task, or if I wanted to come up here with some solutions, I would very much use the language that Claudia is using, which is a lot of numbers. And I would just go into it because, you mentioned about the purpose and who we are as a why. That's important to you. If you wanted to engage me in the same way that you would with Claudia through the numbers, you would lose me very quickly. I would do it because I'm professional, but that's not tapping into this whole intrinsic motivation from me. So it goes all the way back to understanding the strengths of your employees, what you've mentioned, Claudia. Understanding them will help you engage your employees differently to get the best out of them. Is my way the way the best way? No, it isn't. It's your way, the way the best way? No, it isn't. It's different. And that's really important, I believe, to understand it, right?
Yes, and I think we can link it with the purpose aspect, as in we have personal purpose. So I always say my personal purpose at work is to boost happiness. Right. Now, that's not everyone's purpose, and that's okay. But do we know our purpose? What's the most important aspect of the work? Why do we work? And also what's important to our teams and individual team members. Why do they work? Why do they show up every day? Yes, it is about the paycheck, of course, that's as well. And I'm not naive that, if you're not paying your employees fairly, then yes, you will lose them. Even you have autonomy, purpose, and mastery. Yes, that is one of the very important factors, monetary reward. But there are other aspects that are so important of why do we work. And if you find them, as you gave this excellent example of yourself and me, you numbers will not do it for you, numbers will probably do it for me, is really trying to tap into those purpose motivations, if you like. And there are organizations out there that even run entire purpose workshops when people can, as employee, you can sign up to these workshops and discover your personal purpose. And again, the numbers from those workshops are showing that people who know what their purpose is, they can align it with the purpose of the organization. Again, they're much more productive at work and they're much more engaged because now they have also invested their individual interest and they also now are tapping into their internal motivation.
Absolutely. Wow. I wish somebody did the workshop with me like that to figure out my own purpose. I had to just figure it out for myself. But I was just listening to what makes me happy. It goes back to happiness, what makes me joyful when I really feel in the zone. And that is actually coaching others and seeing them grow. That's my absolute purpose and passion. So nothing can beat that for me. Reflected glory shines the brightest. And that's something that really speaks to me. And I do everything to filter it through that thing. But I wish somebody would help me to discover that earlier on. And I wish I had more managers who would understand me on that level as well, because let's face it, I only had one who understood me very well on that intrinsic side and really was able to get the best out of me because he would present things in the exact way how I love, how I need to get me like, bam, I'm just gonna smash everything in front of me, like in a positive, as in like, I will do everything that I can in the best possible way to make it happen because you just tapped into my purpose. You just gave me the autonomy. And again, the mastery, it's a beautiful combination actually, because I could grow from the process as well. I understood what I'm learning, what I'm doing it, and I was able to do it on my own. And when I failed, it was a lesson, not being scolded and told off for because we just lost X amount of money. And because of that, I just then paid tenfolds back into my. Now I haven't got numbers to back it up, Claudia. If you want to hear them, but I was so loyal. I was an ambassador. I was a soldier. I was working my ass off to make sure I paid back, just because Kieran was giving those three things to me every single day, and I was happy. I was happy as Laddie every single day.
Brilliant. So you know it from very personal experience as well. Yeah, so you can be that success case study for us.
But like I said, 14, 15 years, even more than that in working environment, only one leader who was able to do that and understood and knew how to do it. I also think we all want to do it, but we don't understand how necessarily until somebody is going to guide us through it and help us understand. So I'm really grateful for having you on the show and for the work that you're doing, because it's hugely, hugely important, I believe. So let's just,
No, thank you. No, I just want to say thank you so much. No, that's very kind words, Raf. Very kind words.
You're very welcome. So what are the 2, maybe 3 things that managers can, finish listening to this episode, go back to the workplace and start doing it? And my message to you guys is consistently. I totally understand and I feel you that you go back to your workplace and you're enthusiastic about it. You do something and there's no support around you. And you're losing that enthusiasm and you're finishing it. Let me just reinstate that for you guys. You can create a weather, from the inside. You can create your own weather and have that huge influence. You can be that ambassador. So for those of you who want to do that, I'd love to hear from you, crowd. Those 2-3 things that I can do on the regular basis to create those habits of creating this happy and engaging environment. What would that be?
Well, I would definitely line it up with autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So number 1, really give your team an autonomy. Be there to support them and ask the right questions, but stop being the decision maker. Mastery, really spend some time thinking what kind of strengths your team has, and each team member and direct report, and how you can start capitalizing on them, how you can maybe rearrange certain tasks and projects that they're currently doing so you can really capitalize on their strengths. And then definitely purpose. What is the bigger why, and how you can show your team that every work they do relates to that bigger why, and have maybe a bit informal conversation about their purpose.
Yep.
Why do they work? Why do they get up every day and actually show up? Have a bit of fun chat. Why not? And definitely look after your happiness. It's always that order. You look after your happiness. You then and then you spread the happiness and stimulate happiness in the workplace. And also be brave to have conversations about happiness in the workplace. Okay. Break down that stigma of it's fluffy, it's about fun, it's only about fun. No. Starts having more kind of evidence-based almost conversations about happiness. And of course, like if you want even more inspiration, as I mentioned before, I am a co-host of a podcast on happiness, and we have lots of tips around happiness there as well. So I do encourage people to go and listen if they want a little bit more.
Absolutely. I was about to ask about a coaching leader, but you mentioned about your podcast, and I need to stop here and ask you some questions around your podcast, because it's a very interesting concept. You actually tell us what the concept is about, because it's quite unique, if I'm honest with you guys. So Claudia, what's the idea behind your podcast? And
okay, so when the first wave of lockdown came back in March, that had quite detrimental impact on my work and my personal life, and similarly to my co-host Kitty Newman from Trapeze Media. And we both were thinking like, oh my God, when the world is crumbling around us, we go into the survival mode, which is great. It helped us to survive, but we want to still thrive despite everything that's happening. And the podcast and happiness, it's really about that. It's about me and her thinking, okay, what makes us happy in this new reality, and how we can sustain that. So we travel through the alphabet. Each week we have a different concept. We give each other a practical dare. So every week we actually concentrate on our happiness, but doing something very practical around it. So it could be from writing a letter, being empathetic towards someone who really, maybe upset us, or it could be having a gratitude journal, or maybe being courageous and actually going forward for something, even though we feel scared about it, etc. So very specific dares. And then when we see each other, and on the podcast, we talk how that impacted our happiness, and then we look at that experience in relation to science and research. So what the kind of the data and the numbers tell us about that particular aspect of happiness. So it's a combination of our own life plus science, if you like. Yeah.
So what's this week? What's the current there that you're going through, guys?
So we this week, obviously, we are recording in advance of what's being shown. So just to kind of say that. So currently we are experimenting with Tea for Time, and we are analyzing how do we spend our time, and we need to act on 3 things that we always want to do but never have time for.
Right. Always have. Okay. And so maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of the episode, but what are your 3 things?
Oh, I'm not sure if I can release it yet, Ralph.
Okay, one then. One. Let's go with one.
Well,
you can't spark the curiosity and then just leave it like that. It's just not fair. It's not right.
So one of the things that I really want to do but never have time for is I do a bit of painting, and I want to finish one specific painting, and I just always feels like, you know what, I don't have time for this. There's so many more important aspects of my life than currently painting this bit, but I'm going to finish it.
Interesting. Wow. Very interesting concept. I really like it. Really love it. And now I'm going to go back to the question that I meant to ask when you were talking about those skill sets and how can, so we spoke about the leader that I had a pleasure to work with. were you working for a leader who actually understood those three things very well and helped you be part of that environment and make it part of your daily routine in the workplace? Have you worked for a leader like that?
Yes, so I'm very lucky that I had the chance to have a very wonderful coaching leader, and I think what was I think she had this amazing ability to really connect with people and understand, and very quickly, and she was very genuinely interested in me as a person. Like genuinely, it wasn't that she was asking the right questions because she needed to or because she was following a certain coaching model. She was just very interested in me as an individual. And what that meant is that she knew very quickly what are my strengths are. So she very quickly connected me with the project when I was able to grow and shine. And also she knew my blind spots, which means that she knew what my certain limitations and weaknesses are, and she was able to support me in those moments and also nudge me out of my comfort zone. If my obstacle was my blind side, she would give me this nice friendly nudge. And because of this, I grew and learned and thrive like anywhere else before because of that approach. I think she was absolutely amazing in creating that really good coaching and learning culture.
Wow. I feel just, wow, incredible. What a leader. What's her name?
D. Smith.
D. Smith, all right.
Yeah.
Incredible leader. Wow. All it takes is to get to know you, right? And I second that. I worked with Kieran, and he did exactly the same thing. He just made sure that he knows and understands who you are as a person, as a human being, and that just then helps a lot in the workplace. Yeah. Incredible. So we're about to, guys, wrap up. You've heard about the podcast and happiness, which I encourage you guys to check. I'll leave the links in the description down below as well, and follow Claudia. It's incredible. It's incredible journey. It's incredible thing that you're doing. Really, it really is, and something that we all need, if I'm honest with you, especially during those times right now.
Yes.
Maybe let's just stop. Maybe before I actually wrap it up, because times are different. Times are challenging, and you mentioned the lockdown. Now we are 4 days away from lockdown 2.0, if you will. How do we create that happiness? Maybe what could we do for people if you are working remotely, or maybe like in a hospitality environment, which it's a background that we all spent years in. We are stopped working because we are closed. If you're not doing takeaways, so from Thursday, if you're not doing takeaways, you're closed for a month. What can we do to sustain that happiness and that connection with our employees? What would be your advice?
Well, definitely, I think as a managers, we should not shy away to have supporting conversations with people and actually ask about their mental health and what is their current situation. The classic advice of always ask twice, because when you ask the first time, how are you? They will say they're fine. If you maybe ask a second or third time, then yes, they start opening up. So I think having those very honest conversations where your individual team members are, it's very important to make sure that you can engage and create that happy environment. I think it's also giving maybe people time to reflect on what makes them happy. I think that this, even though obviously it feels like very counterintuitive, it is a moment for us to stop and reflect a little bit because we're not in the midst of that. And I think that can be very useful reflection time. And I also would definitely make sure that you connect people. So if you have teams that, yes, they're working in the hospitality on the floor because they're dealing with deliveries, then you have another set, they're not working, that you keep bringing people together. You are that glue, so people still have that sense of belonging, that they are part of that workplace. I think that's very important to do.
Love it. And I would just only top it up. Rather than texting people and asking how they're doing, pick up the phone. Have a conversation, right?
Yes.
So from my experience, what I see people around me that's in hospitality, managers often getting in touch with the employees, but they would do it through a text message. I'd say pick up the phone. It's a nice touch when your manager is texting you, say, how are you doing? How's things? but you can take it to the absolute next level. And like you mentioned earlier, you said something that the leader that you worked for, she genuinely meant to connect with you rather than just something that she had to do because it's her job. That's the difference between text messaging and picking up the phone. The emotions are there, you can sense tone of the voice, and it really takes it to that next level. So I love your advice, Claudia. I would just only add, pick up the phone, don't text.
Absolutely. It's about the human connection, and don't shy away from having that honest conversation about people's mental health and happiness. It's very important. Yeah.
Where else my listeners can follow you? So we have a podcast, And Happiness, and I've connected with you on LinkedIn as well. Are there any other social medias that we can follow you and learn more from you and about you?
Absolutely. So also Instagram at And Happiness Official. You can find the information about there and the kind of the tips that we're generating around happiness. It's also a very good place to find more. And there is also a website, andhappiness.co.uk, where we have a write-up from each of the episodes. So if maybe you don't want to spend time listening for half an hour, then you can go and have a read about the key elements that we discussing.
Love it. I'll drop all the links, guys, in the description of my podcast episode. And wow, what a start of the week for me, Claudia. Thank you very much. You've made it really easy for me. It's like I said, it's my first live stream that I'm actually doing. You've made that experience really easy for me, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that. And you set the tone for my whole week, because I'm not happy now. I'm gonna carry that mood, and I've learned something new today as well. So thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for being generous with your time and sharing it with me and my audience. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always amazing to chat with very, open-minded and curious individuals. So thank you.
Absolutely. Oh dear me. Oh dear me.
What happened?
My Audacity didn't pick up the right microphone for the first time. I didn't check which microphone.
Don't tell me you haven't recorded.
It's recorded. Yeah. It's record. This well, like I said, it's the first time. Apparently, when you press end broadcast, you have option to download the episode, and so I trust that is the case. I tested it, and that will be the case. It's just like what I do is I'm recording locally as well, my audio, so there's better quality. Turns out I have pressed record, and for the first time, for some reason, my Audacity decided to pick up completely wrong microphone.
Yeah.
Oh well. A lesson. That's what it is. It's not going to ruin my mood. It's not. It's a lesson. Okay, thank you very much. Like I said, it's all done and dusted now. Here's the thing now. That's another thing that I want to learn. Like, if I just now want to chat with my guest for like a few minutes, how do I do that on this thing? Because if I just press end broadcast, I think I'm just cut off.
I think we got. I know. I think we're going to cut off. Maybe. I have no idea. Never use this. Yeah, platform.
Alrighty. So I need to press the end broadcast then in that case. And thank you very much. Like I've mentioned, the episode will be edited. I'll send you snippets, and I'll also create some audiograms as well to share if you need to do so. I appreciate that.
Cool.
We'll be all with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.